Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So today we will conclude our chapter of Salah summary. Because it's the longest of all chapters and it's the most important probably by far, I've chosen to do a summary for it. Probably the other chapters I won't do a summary for, meaning we'll just keep on going continuously until we're done the text. But because the chapter of Salah is very, very important, and it just needs to be revised, I think, a few times to make sure everyone understands what we're talking about. And there's a lot of questions. And so what I did was I put a Google form up on the Facebook group. So if you have questions and you want to ask anything, then that's a good place to put up the questions, and I'll either answer those questions at the end of sessions, or I'll give a session specifically for that, meaning I'll dedicate a session just to answer all the questions. It's just easier that way, because what happened last time is that we ended up repeating a lot of the questions that were already asked throughout the series, and they were answered in detail. And I went through the video, it was like 20 minutes wasted on questions that we had already answered before. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go through whatever questions you have, just put it on the form, and that way I'll dedicate time specifically for it to answer the questions, inshallah. So I won't dodge a question. The thing is that I'm not into hypotheticals. I don't think we should be asking too many hypothetical questions that are not going to happen, like something that's just not going to go down, or if it does happen, like the percentage or the possibility of happening is less than 0.5% or something, or a question that was asked before. So you can just put it on the Google form and I'll answer it, inshallah, either at the end of sessions, or I'll dedicate a session specifically for answering those questions, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Okay, so where we are right now is Salatul Eidain. We're at the Eid Salah. If you can show Brother Emmanuel, just show them if they have their books where you are, so they can keep up, inshallah. وصلاة العيدين سنة مؤكدة, and the prayers of Eid are a sunnah mu'akkada for the Shafi'iyya. There are other things for other madhab, but that's what the Shafi'i, they're a highly recommended sunnah prayer. For the Shafi'i, that's what they are. For other madhab, they look at it differently. Some of them look at it as fard kifaya, and some of them see it only as sunnah, but for the Shafi'i, it's sunnah mu'akkada, right? وهي ركعتان يكبر في الأولى 7 سوى تكبيرة الإحرام وفي الثانية 5 سوى تكبيرة الإحرام. And how it happens is that we pray 2 rak'at, we do 7 takbir after the takbiratul ihram in the first rak'ah, and 5 after the takbirah, after the movement takbirah. So altogether you're doing what? You're doing 8 and 6, right? If you're counting takbiratul ihram and the takbir of the movement that moves you from the sujood up to the qiyam. If you don't count those 2 takbirat, then you're doing 7 and 5 in the salah. Right. ويخطب بعدها khutbataini, and then the imam does 2 khutbas after we do those prayers. That prayer with the takbirat. The takbirat are sunnah, so if you don't do them, your prayer is fine. You don't have to go back and do them again or do anything. يكبر في الأولى 9 وفي الثانية 7. And during the khutbah, he does 2 khutbas just like Jum'ah, just the same way that he does khutbah Jum'ah, but he does 9 takbir in the first khutbah and 7 takbir in the second khutbah. How? So the imam will stand up, and the imam, before he starts going Alhamdulillah, he's like Allahu Akbar, 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 Allahu Akbar. So count it 9 times. And then the second khutbah, when he sits, he'll stand up, he'll do the same thing 7 times, and that's what the Shafi'iyya do. Of course, there are different narrations for other madhab. ويكبر من غروب الشمس من ليلة العيد إلى أن يدخل الإمام في الصلاة. For the Eid al-Fitr, the Eid of Ramadan, you start takbir from after Maghrib of the last day of Ramadan. So the moment you leave Ramadan, which is at Maghrib of the last day, the 30th or the 29th, if it's only a 29 day Ramadan. So you start takbir from that point until the Imam starts the Salat al-Eid prayer. So it's just for those 12 hours basically. The takbir happens for the Ramadan Eid. And وفي الأضحى, and the Eid al-Adha, Eid that happens after Hajj, خلف الصلوات المفروضات من صبح يوم عرفة إلى العصر من آخر أيام التشريق. And in Adha, the takbir starts from the morning of the 9th day of the Hijjah, which is Arafah, from after the Fajr prayer of the day of Arafah, until Asr of the final day of Ayyam al-Tashriq. What are Ayyam al-Tashriq? So if you remember, we said Arafah is number 9, the Eid al-Adha or Yawm al-Nahr is number 10, and then Ayyam al-Tashriq are 3 days after that, 11, 12, 13. So the Asr of the 13th day of the Hijjah. So 9, 10, 11, 9 after Fajr, the 9th day of the Hijjah after Salat al-Fajr, and then the 10th day, 11, 12, and 13 after Asr. Rah. راح البيت. راح البيت. So that's the takbir. وخلف الصلوات المفروضات, you do it after the obligatory prayer. So after every prayer, like Isha or Dhuhr or Asr or Maghrib or Fajr, or you stop and you do the takbir, Allahu Akbar, in the way that we're accustomed to. Okay. وصلاة الكسوف سنة مؤكدة. So the eclipse prayer. So doing Salat al-Kusuf is a heavily recommended sunnah. فَإِنْ فَاتَتْ لَمْ تُقْضَى. If you miss it, you don't make up for it. So if you miss Salat al-Kusuf, you don't make up for it. You don't say, well, I wanted to come and I got caught up in traffic and now the Kusuf is over and they prayed Kusuf, can I do it? No, you don't do it. It's a momentary thing. It's a momentary thing. You do it when the time is right. وَيُصَلِّي لِكُسُوفِ الشَّمْسِ وَخُسُوفِ الْقَمَرِ رَكْعَتَيْن. And for this lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, we pray 2 rak'ah. في كل ركعة قيامان يطيل القراءة فيهما وركوعان يطيل التسبيح فيهما دون السجود ويخطب بعدها خطبتين. So for the Shafi'iyya and the Jumhur, what you do is you pray 2 rak'ah. Each rak'ah has 2 ruku' in it. If you remember, I explained to you how it's done. With Allahu Akbar, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I read Al-Fatiha and I read a surah. Then Allahu Akbar, I make ruku' and I spend a long time. I read 100 ayah in the qiyam, and then I do tasbih for a good 5 minutes. Then Allahu Akbar, I stand up and I read again. No, Allahu Akbar, you read again, and then Allahu Akbar, ruku' again, and then Sami Allahu liman hamidah, and you continue that. You do that for you do that in each rak'ah. So 2 rak'ah with 4 ruku'. So 2 rak'ah with 4 ruku' and 4 qiyam. That's how Salat al-Kusuf is done. For the Jumhur, the Hanafiya do it regularly, like any other 2 rak'ah. وَيَخْطُبُ بَعْدَهَا خُطْبَتَيْن. And then the Imam, for the Shafi'iyya and the Hanabila, they also do 2 khutbas. Meaning just like, it's almost exactly the same way as Eid or as Istisqa, almost exactly the same way. Okay. يسر في كسوف الشمس ويجهر في خسوف القمر. For the Shafi'iyya, you read the kusuf salah secretively or under your breath. You don't read it out loud. You read it as if it's Dhuhr or Asr, and you read the lunar eclipse prayer out loud, like jahran, loudly. And that's for the Shafi'iyya. The Jumhur do jahar for both. وصلاة الاستسقاء مسنونة فيأمرهم الإمام بالتوبة والصدقة والخروج من المظالم ومصالحة الأعداء وصيام 3 أيام. Now we're going to talk about the istisqa prayer. So the drought prayer. Is that how they write drought? No. O-U-G-H-T. Drought prayer. So Salat al-Istisqa is also a sunnah. The Imam commands or tells his people to repent, to give sadaqah, to give charity, to al-khuruj min al-madhalim, if you've oppressed anyone, to go ask for forgiveness and give back what you took. ومصالحة الأعداء, if there is animosities between people, then you have a treaty or you do sulh, so you find a way to reform the relationship, and to fast 3 days. So you start fasting. So the Imam will say, okay, start fasting, start from tomorrow. So they'll fast 1 day, 2nd day, 3rd day. ثم يخرج بهم في اليوم الرابع في ثياب بذلة. And then on the 4th day, they will all go out. They will leave. They will kind of go outside to the outskirts of the city that they live in, or the village that they are in, or wherever they are. في ثياب بذلة, and clothing that are work clothes. So they're not good clothes, not the clothes that you wear for Jum'ah or for Salah. You're supposed to wear good clothing for Salawat, and work clothing is the clothing that you use when you're going to the job. It's not the same clothing because they're usually dirtier or less fashionable. So you wear those clothes that are less fashionable for this prayer. واستكانة وتضرع, and everyone goes out with humility, with a feel of need towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ويصلي بهم ركعتين كصلاة العيدين, and then the Imam prays 2 rak'ah with his congregation, like the 2 rak'ah of Eid. So what does he mean by the 2 rak'ah? What does he mean by like the 2 rak'ah of Eid? In the sense of the takbirat. Yeah, so you do the takbirat the same way.
And then the khutbah as well?
So ثم يخطب بعدهما, and then he gives a khutbah after, but no, it's a bit different. Yeah? Now what you do, ويحول رداءه ويكثر من الدعاء والاستغفار. If you remember, I told you that he'll يحول رداءه. So you'll take off the clothing, and I demonstrated how the clothing is taken off, and down becomes up and left becomes right. So you wear your clothing backwards. Of course the clothing that are covering clothing. So like something that if you take off your clothes, no, you're not going to take off and become naked and then turn on. But the clothing that cover clothing, you turn them on backwards, right? Then the imam gets on the minbar and does a khutbah. And I told you khutbah al-istisqa is a very unique experience. It's much more emotional. It's very loud. It's very you feel the power of it because the imam does a lot of dua, does a lot of in the matn. I read this for you last time. ويكثر من الدعاء والاستغفار. He makes a lot of dua and a lot of repentance. ويدعو بدعاء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Make the dua that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم made, and then the matn recites a number of ad'iyah that Imam Shafiee had put together from different sources from that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم had made at different points. I'm not going to read the whole thing because we read it last time. But what he's supposed to do is he's supposed to make a khutbah very emotional, talk a lot about repentance, talk a lot about humility, about fearfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make a lot of dua. It's a very unique experience. If you ever go to a country where drought happens and you do Salat al-Istisqa, then you'll never forget that. That's it's a hallmark moment. Okay. وَيَغْتَسِلُ فِي الْوَادِي إِذَا سَلَ. So I'm not going to read the dua because we read it last time, but go on to the part. And then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the rain down, when the wadi, which is the river or water, starts to run, يَغْتَسِلُ فِي الْوَادِي. It's a sunnah for you to go and take a shower using that water, or cleanse yourself with that water. وَيُسَبِّحُ لِلرَّعْدِ وَالْبَرْقِ. And to do tasbih when you hear the thunder or you see the lightning. Alright, so that's Salat al-Istisqa. Now Salat al-Khawf. And this happens during wars more often than anything else, right? So this happens during wars. على ثلاثة أضرب. There are three ways to do Salat al-Khawf, the prayer of fear. أحدهما أن يكون العدو في غير جهة القبلة. For the enemy not to be in the direction of the Qibla. So the enemy is over here and I'm standing over here, and this is the Qibla, so it's a whole different direction. فيفرقهم الإمام فرقتين. So the Imam will make two groups. فرقة تقف في وجه العدو. So one group will stand facing the enemy, face the enemy to make a blockade to face the enemy. فرقة تقف في وجه العدو وفرقة خلفه. And then one group will be behind that group that is standing in front of the enemy. فيصلي بالفرقة التي خلفه ركعة ثم تتم لنفسها. So the Imam will pray with that group one rak'ah, the group that's not facing the enemy, right? And then when he stands up for the second rak'ah, and they'll continue. He won't continue himself, the Imam. The guys behind him will continue the second rak'ah by themselves. ثم تتم لنفسها. They'll finish their two rak'ahs. وتمضي إلى وجه العدو. And then they'll go stand in front of the enemy. And the people who are standing towards the enemy will retreat and come back. وتأتي الطائفة الأخرى فيصلي بها ركعة وتتم لنفسها ويسلم بها. And then what he will do is the group that came will come and stand behind the Imam, and he'll continue his second rak'ah, right? And then they've only done one rak'ah, so he'll sit down waiting for them to do the second rak'ah. And when they're all finished and seated, he'll do taslim, and they'll do taslim behind him. Okay, so the enemy is over here, so I have a group standing this way, facing that way towards the enemy, and I'm facing the Qibla, right? And the first group is standing behind me praying. I pray one rak'ah, I stand up for the second, and I stay standing. They finish their second rak'ah. They do taslim, and they go and they take the place of the people who are standing in front of the enemy. The people who are standing come and they stand behind me. I'm still standing up, right? I haven't moved yet. When they're all behind me standing, I continue as an Imam my second rak'ah. Now my second rak'ah, I sit down, I don't move anymore, right? I stay down because I'm done. But they've only done one rak'ah, so they'll stand up and continue the second rak'ah. I'll wait until they are done. When they're sitting ready behind me to end, I'll do taslim, and they'll do taslim with me. And that's how we do. That's if the enemy is not in the direction of the Qibla. Now the second situation with ثاني أن يكون في جهة القبلة, for the enemy to be in the direction of the Qibla. فيصفهم الإمام صفين ويحرم بهم. فإذا سجد معه أحد الصفين ووقف الصف الآخر يحرسهم فإذا رفع سجدوا ولحقوه. So if you're turning towards the Qibla, you have both lines stand towards the enemy, and the Imam prays. He prays one rak'ah, one group does it, and the other group stays, like they all do takbir. So everyone now is standing towards the Qibla, because that's where the enemy is anyway. So I do Allahu Akbar, everyone behind me does Allahu Akbar, everyone. One group continues the prayer, does one rak'ah with me, and the other group just stays standing up. They don't move, they just stay standing up. I do one rak'ah, I stand up, and then I stay standing, and the group that had done the 1 rak'ah will continue the second rak'ah on their own. They'll finish, they'll do taslim, and then they'll stand up. Right? And then the other group who didn't do the first rak'ah with me will continue that rak'ah with me. I'll finish, because I've done 1 rak'ah already. They haven't, they'll stand up and continue the second rak'ah, and then I'll do taslim with them. Is that too confusing?
You mentioned something about in the first scenario that the imam remains seated. So is he remaining seated for his first rak'ah or his
second rak'ah when he's doing tashahhud, right? The other group has only done 1 rak'ah. So they're going to stand up and get the second rak'ah. So he'll just sit and wait until they're done.
So like how should I explain this? So the imam, he prayed 2 full rak'ahs with the first group.
No, he prayed 1 rak'ah with the first group and 1 rak'ah with the second.
They left. He continued until he got to the tashahhud point, and he waited for everybody else to line up behind them. And when they were all seated, he just basically did his ibrahim.
So I prayed 1 rak'ah. I stand up now for my second rak'ah. I don't move. Behind me, they start going, they're continuing the prayer behind me. They're done, they do taslim, the other group stands behind me ready for prayer, right? I know they're standing there, I'm told that they're standing. I continue my second rak'ah. Now when I sit for my tashahhud, the group that are praying with me have only done 1 rak'ah. So they have to stand up and continue their second rak'ah. So what do I do in the meantime? I just stay seated in my tashahhud. Once they're done, and I'm told, okay, everyone's done, I do Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, they do the same thing with me.
So are they just one of the musallin is just going to verbally say?
Yeah, you're allowed to be told stuff, yeah, it's fine. Well, it's war. Like, if things get really bad, you break prayer and you go fight. Like if things are, this is like during a war when it's a time for, when it's a truce time, or it's not a time for fighting. But during combat, which is the next part of this, the third scenario, أن يكون في شدة الخوف والتحام الحرب, for it to be in a very, very scary moment, and it's the middle of combat. فيصلي كيف أمكنه, you pray however you can. راجلا أو راكبة, standing or riding on your horse or in your vehicle. مستقبل القبلة, towards the qibla, وغير مستقبل لها, and not towards the qibla. So you could be carrying your sword, and you're fighting, and you're reading al-Fatiha, and you're reading a surah, and Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, wa bihamdi, and you're fighting. Like during prayer, but you have to pray. This is the importance of prayer, right? Like if you're fighting, like literally if you're, Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu liman hamida, you're hitting it, you pray. Even if you have to do it that way, you do it no matter what. But if the war is in such that we can pray, meaning it's like, then we pray, but we don't completely put our guard down. There has to be a group of us standing towards the enemy, like guarding everyone. You can't just, everyone pray jama'ah, and then the enemy looks at us and look, there's literally no one standing guard, and then you come in, so that's not the way to do it. Okay. ويحرم على الرجال لبس الحرير. So forbidden garments. So for men, it is haram to wear harir. Of course, full harir we're talking about. We're talking about like, or anything that has more than 50% harir within it. Anything less than 50% harir, there's a difference of opinion. وَالتَّخَطُّمُ بِالذَّهَبِ, and for you to have a gold ring or any form of gold, yellow gold, white gold, doesn't matter, gold is haram. وَيَحِلُّ لِلنِّسَاءِ, and it's halal for ladies. وَقَلِيلُ الذَّهَبِ وَكَثِيرُهُ فِي التَّحْرِيمِ سَوَاء, and whether we have small amounts of gold or large amounts of gold, small percentages of gold or large, it doesn't make a difference in garments. You just don't wear gold, right? Gold can be used for other things, but not as garments or adornments. All right. وَإِذَا كَانَ بَعْضُ الثَّوْبِ إبريسما وبعضه قطنا أو كتانا جاز لبسه ما لم يكن الإبريسم غالبا. And if you're wearing a clothing that some of it is cotton or some of it is what's the other, polyester, what else is there? There's another one. What's katan? Katan is what is katan? Tell me what katan is. I forgot the name. SubhanAllah. So if you're wearing a garment, some of it is silk and some of it is cotton.
They said linen.
Linen, yeah. Or some of it is linen or cotton. You can wear it as long as the silk is less than 50%. So it's not the majority of the garment that you're wearing. Okay. ويلزم في الميت أربعة أشياء. And what is needed for someone who dies, rulings for the deceased. How do you write deceased? With an S at the end? Is that right?
S-E-D, yeah.
Okay. There are 4 things that are obligatory towards someone who is deceased. غسله, so for him to be washed and showered. وتكفينه, for him to be put in a kafan. والصلاة عليه, for you to do the salat al-janazah for him. ودفنه, and for you to put him in the ground, like to actually get a grave for him. So these are 4 things that are wajib for a Muslim. These countries are a bit different. They don't see that to be a wajib, so you could easily die, not have enough money, and then be cremated or exposed of. But every Muslim has the right to be buried in the ground, and that's something that the state has to take care of. واثنان لا يغسلان ولا يصلى عليهما. And there are two types of people who you do not shower, you don't do ghusl, and you don't do salat al-janazah for them. They're Muslims. الشهيد في معركة المشركين, so a shaheed who died in combat fighting the enemy, right? Different other types of shuhada are different, so because there are different types of shuhada, they don't get the same thing. والسقط الذي لم يستهل صارخا, and a stillbirth, so a fetus that is, a lady gives birth to a baby that does not come out screaming. So it was a stillbirth. It was when it was born, it was already dead, and that is for the Jamhur, except Imam Ahmad has a different opinion on that. But those two individuals, you don't do ghusl, you don't shower them, you don't do ghusl for them, religious purificatory wash, and you don't do salat al-janazah for them. So if a lady gives birth to a stillbirth, you don't do janazah for them. And the shaheed doesn't get salat al-janazah as well, except the Hanafiya, they have a different opinion on that one. Okay. ويغسل الميت وترا, and when we shower or we purify the deceased, we do it in odd numbers. So I do it once or 3 times or 5 times or 7 times or 9 times. ويكون في أول غسله سدر وفي آخره شيء من كافور. Remind me what is sidr and kafur again in English? These are fragrances that you put in the water as you are washing the deceased.
Low tree and camphor.
Camphor, because there's a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ used those or talked about them. Okay. ويكفن في ثلاثة أثواب بيض, and the deceased is put in 3 white garments. So he's wrapped up with 3 white garments. ليس فيها قميص ولا عمامة. You don't put shirts or anything that has stitches in it or anything that you don't dress them up in clothing, and you don't put a turban on. So it's just a piece of white fabric, and the deceased is wrapped in it 3 times. Okay. ويكبر عليه أربع تكبيرات. And what we do is, what we're supposed to do, you're supposed to do 4 takbir for Salat al-Janazah. That's how Salat al-Janazah is done, 4 takbirat. يقرأ الفاتحة بعد الأولى, you read the Fatiha after the first takbir. ويصلي على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد الثانية, and you do the Salawat al-Ibrahimiyya after the second one. ويدعو للميت بعد الثالثة فيقول, and after the third one you make a specific dua for the deceased, which you say, اللهم هذا عبدك وابن عبديك خرج من روح الدنيا وسعتها ومحبوبه أحباؤه فيها. So you make a dua for the mayyit. After the third one, you make this dua. This is the dua that Imam Shafiee prefers, but any dua you make is acceptable. And for the Hanafi are okay with it being in any language you too. So you can just make any dua. Basically, there's a long. The text has a long dua. I read it once before I explained it. I'm not going to do it again. But you can use these ad'iyah for when someone passes away. ويقول في الرابعة, and after the 4th takbir, the final takbir, you say اللهم لا تحرمنا أجره ولا تفتنا بعده واغفر لنا وله. So memorize that dua specifically, because that dua we're supposed to say after the 4th takbir when we're doing Salat al-Janazah. اللهم لا تحرمنا أجره ولا تفتنا بعده واغفر لنا وله. Okay. ويسلم بعد الرابعة, and you do 1 taslim after Rabi'ah. Only the Hanafiya do twice, but the Jamhur do 1 taslim on the right after the 4th one. Okay. ويدفن في لحد مستقبل القبلة ويسل من قبل رأسه برفق. So you put him in a grave where he is facing the Qibla. ويسل من قبل رأسه برفق, and when you put him in his grave, you start with the head and you bring it down gently. So you bring from the head down, not from the feet down. ويقول الذي يلحده, and the person who is laying him down in his grave, بسم الله وعلى ملة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and you say بسم الله وعلى ملة رسول الله وعلى سنة رسول. The hadith in Abu Dawood is وعلى سنة رسول الله, but the Shafi'i choose وعلى ملة رسول الله. I'm not sure exactly what their logic was, but وعلى سنة رسول الله is a hadith that is Abu Dawood and Tirmidhi, I think. Wallahu alam. But that's the hadith, and that's what we have Ibn Umar says that the Prophet ﷺ would say Bismillah wa ala sunnati Rasulillah when he put someone down in his grave. ويضجع في القبر بعد أن يعمق قامة وبسطة. and then he is laid in his grave after the grave has been widened and deepened. So you have to make sure the grave is deep enough and wide enough for the deceased to lay in fully. So that is the sunnah. It should be a grave that is long enough and deep enough for the person to stay under. وَيُسَطَّحُ الْقَبْرُ وَلَا يُبْنَى عَلَيْهِ وَلَا يُجَصَّص. And the qabr is made musattah, so it's level to the ground. This is the Shafi'iyya's opinion. The Jumhur say yusannam. Yusannam mean you put some dirt to make it like the hump of the camel. So you make it just a bit higher than the ground, so it's known that it's a grave. وَلَا يُبْنَى عَلَيْهِ وَلَا يُجَصَّص. And you don't make any shrines. You don't build. This is a bad habit that you'll find in a lot of Muslim countries where they build huge shrines upon graves, and you don't even know if there's someone inside. I recall like being at one of the masajid where there was a big shrine, and the sheikh there told me, I don't think anyone's in here. I truly believe that there's no one in this grave. Like they call it the grave of a sahabi, but there's probably no one in there. And it's something that kind of got out of hand, especially in certain Middle Eastern countries. Anyways, you're not supposed to build a shrine or anything big and fancy around a grave of anyone. وَلَا بَأْسَ بِالْبُكَاءِ عَلَى الْمَيِّتِ. And there's nothing wrong with crying for the deceased and because of the pain of losing the deceased. مِنْ غَيْرِ نَوْحٍ وَلَا شَقِّ جَيْبٍ. Without nawh. Niyaha or nawh is when you start objecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or saying things that are that have kufr in them, or any insinuation of not accepting the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا شَقِّ جَيْبٍ. شَقِّ جَيْبٍ is when they used to take and just rip their shirts or rip their garments out of, they're so, people actually pay money to others to do it in certain countries. It's insane. But then the Arabs were very known for it back in the day. وَيُعَزَّ أَهْلُهُ إِلَى ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ مِّن دَفْنِهِ. And the azza, meaning the condolences, happens within 3 days after the person dies. So if you're living in the city, you have to do azza within 3 days. You shouldn't do it after 3 days. We shouldn't be reminding them of who passed away, unless you are someone who's traveling, who's not around, and then comes back and finds out someone dies, then you can go give your condolences. That's fine. But if you're living within the group, you shouldn't do it after 3 days. 3 days is as far as it goes. وَلَا يُدْفَنُ اثْنَانِ فِي قَبْرٍ إِلَّا لِحَاجَةٍ. And you don't put 2 people in a grave unless there's a need. Meaning there's no more space, or there's some necessity for you to put 2 people in a grave. The Prophet ﷺ did it for some of Qatla Uhud, Fanam Shuhada Uhud. He did some people put in the same grave. It was out of necessity. Okay, and that's the end of the chapter of Salah. What I'm going to do, because next week we're off, we'll come back inshallah the Thursday after that. I'm going to have a small quiz regarding all the stuff that we talked about, and I'll give it out for anyone who wants it, and you can try and write it and see if you want to practice the 2 chapters that we studied, the chapter of Tahara and the chapter of Salah. If you just want to see if you understood it, and you just kind of test yourself and see if you're comprehending everything, then I'll give you the quiz and you can write it inshallah. So I'll give you like a week, 2 weeks to prepare and go through either the videos, or if you forgot anything or want to look into stuff. Are there any questions regarding this chapter that you want to ask and you didn't ask? You can ask now. Yes.
What about you have finished your prayer, you were in last tashahhud, but instead of sitting down from last sajda, you stood up. So should we go back? Some people say no, you complete another 2 rak'ah, they would be considered as nafil.
No, you don't complete anything. You sit down immediately. Yes, you sit down because it's a rukn. The second tashahhud is not a wajib, or a sunnah.
The last tashahhud. After last tashahhud.
Yeah, so the last tashahhud is a rukn.
Yeah.
So when we used to talk about the first tashahhud, saying that you can't sit back. If you stand up, you shouldn't sit back down again. You stay seated, because the first tashahhud is a sunnah for the Shafi'iyya and wajib for the Jumhur. So and you're already standing up, which is a rukn. You don't go from a rukn to something less than it. But in the last tashahhud is a rukn. So you're going from a rukn to, that's fine actually, because you made the intention of 4 rak'ah or 3 rak'ah or 2 rak'ah. You can't, if you pray another rak'ah, you lose your prayer. Yeah, so if you pray anything extra right now, khalas, salatak batalat. Because when you stood up and said takbirat al-ihram, what was your intention? How many rak'ah were you going to pray? 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you made the intention for. So if this is the final tashahhud, this is your final rak'ah. So if you pray anything extra, basically this whole prayer is invalid now. So you come back, you do tashahhud, and then you do sujood as-sahw, and then you do taslim. Yeah.
No matter how far you are, you should come back.
Yes, no matter how far you are. You can, no matter where you are. But that is very, so the scenario for that would be that you'd have to be sure that, you have to be 100% sure that was it, and you were just daydreaming throughout the movements maybe. But that's very rare. Yeah. But yeah, you have to go back. I was asked a question last time regarding changing the niyyah. So you don't change the niyyah. I looked it up. There's really you don't change the niyyah. I did find one thing that some scholars talked about of changing the niyyah within a sunnah prayer from muqayyad ila mutlaq, and that is not really changing the niyyah. So I'm praying sunnat al-fajr, right? And then I remembered in the middle of my sunnat al-fajr that I already prayed sunnat al-fajr today, right? So what do? So I just continue 2 rak'ah. I just continue 2 rak'ah normally. I mean, that is just basically, you're praying a sunnah, you thought that you didn't pray this sunnah specifically, but you find out that you did, so it's a regular sunnah now. It just turns into a regular sunnah. Any other form of changing niyyah, you lose your prayer. Like any other form between sunnah and fard and sunnah, you end up losing your prayer. But if you were praying a sunnah, and then you remember that you already did it, or that that's something that's done, then you can just turn it into a regular sunnah prayer, which is fine. Again, the intentions of sunnah prayers are much more flexible than fard. But once you're talking about a fard prayer, going from it or going to it, no, you will lose your prayer automatically. Yes.
One more, I know the nails are not included because the hands are not washed. What about the nails of the feet?
No, feet are a rukn of wudu. Remember?
There is some dust or dirt.
Yeah. So if there's
wax, you know what I mean.
So it depends on what's in there. As fun as that is to talk about, so if there's anything that's najasa, then that has to be removed definitely. If it's not najasa, so give or take. But you'll find scholars who will be very strict about it, and scholars who will not be as strict about it. As long as water touches the whole foot, then that suffices for the majority of opinions, at least. But the whole point, see, this is where the maqasid comes in for actions. Like the point of doing wudu is making sure that the organs that you are washing are clean at the end. So if at the end they're not clean, then maybe we didn't do our thing. Like maybe the whole wudu wasn't done properly. So maybe from a fiqh perspective, you can say my wudu is salih, it's not batil, like it's not an invalid wudu. However, the wudu didn't serve its purpose, which is what needs to kind of be observed in terms of doing actions. That you have to serve the purpose itself, which is cleanliness. Yes.
For the najasa, if you have a wound, say you hurt yourself on the leg, you wrap it, but bleeding and your prayer is running out, right? But is that blood considered blood that you shouldn't have on you for the prayer?
So you're bleeding out during prayer?
Not during the prayer. Like before you prayed, you wounded yourself and you bandaged it all up.
Yeah, that's fine. When you've already packed the wound and there's some blood, maybe stains here and there, that's fine because it's a darura. It's not really. So it's not that you neglected to wash blood off your clothing. It's the fact that you're actually wounded. So that's a different thing. Like let's say you have a surgery in your knee or in your anywhere, and then that you need to change the packs every 2-3 days, and there's always that there's blood under this, so you pray anyway. That's fine. The thing is, you remove blood and any other najasa, so blood, pus, feces, or urine on your clothing, on your body that are. So these are mostly like stains, not. This is not talking about wounds or being in not an open wound. Wounds, there's a difference of opinion regarding wounds specifically because there's a hadith of the Sahaba praying sometimes when they're bleeding out. So there's different opinions amongst scholars in terms of what's okay and what's not okay when we're talking about wounds specifically, or wounds of war. But I need to be more specific. But there are differences of opinions on that issue. But when it comes to a wound and you've already packed it but there's some blood stains like on the bandage or stuff, that's fine. You pray normally, inshallah. Yeah. Yes.
So, Shafiee, you mentioned at one point that if you were to touch anybody who is not mahram, or someone that you are not familiar with.
So you're talking about the opposite gender.
Yes.
Yeah. For the Shafi'iyya, you lose your wudu.
Yes. So for that, wasn't there the case where Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Yes. This is only the Shafi'iyya's opinion on the issue. The Jamhur don't care. Yes.
So for that, I just don't understand their reasoning because I want to understand it as well. So
it's very simple. They saw that the hadith that talked about the Prophet being touched by his wife to be something specific to him. So that's what the Shafi'i argued. Yeah.
So how for that more on that. So for that, how can they say, well, this is for the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but this is for everyone else.
That's why that's why I didn't go into the arguments. It's a very long, complicated argument that is tangled with usul al-fiqh and with. So it's not a couple of words of it. So for you to understand that argument, you would have to take some time to study usul and go back to usul al-fiqh and understand how they process certain certain pieces of evidence and what they use to talk about ma huwa khasun li Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ma huwa am, meaning how you weigh something that you think is specific and something that you think is general or something that is open for all. Inshallah, we'll do that once we move to a secondary text. Like once we take this, when we finish the preliminary text of all the madhahib, we move on to the secondary text. Like we take a secondary text in Shafi'i or Hanbali or any madhab. Then we'll start talking. I'll start arguing evidence. Like I'll start saying that this is the hukum because you already know the hukum now. Now we'll just talk about, okay, why that's the hukum and why others have difference of opinion. We'll go into that a bit more. But this is something that, it'll be a long, the same thing you can do about, like when it comes to dogs and boars. The Hanafi and the Maliki have a bit different look at it than Shafi'i and Hanabi. Where the arguments, long arguments. It's
just about specifically, like, how do you say, well, this is specifically for Rasulullah or it's not?
So you look for qara'in. So you look for different indicators within the hadith. So there's sometimes different indicators, either wordings, either examples of other Sahaba who didn't do it. So you look for collateral evidence around within the books of Sunnah and within the wordings of the scholars and the Sahaba, trying to find out what other people did. So the Shafi'iyya found certain evidence of Sahaba making wudu after touching their wives. So they said that this is, and then there's other evidence that said they didn't. So apparently there's either difference of opinion or the narrations need to be looked into again. So there's a lot of, again, it's a very rich and long argument in terms of understanding why they understood that. I think it's worth your time. This is not the focus of of going through the text in that matter.
At the same time, like we're trying to learn this for our daily lives. Right?
Yeah. So for me, that's why whenever we're reading like a Shafi'i text, when we start reading another text, whenever I read a text, if they are doing something that goes against the Jumhur, I'll point it out, and I did. Like if you go, so anytime the Shafi'iyya go against the Jumhur and what they're doing, they do something that the Jumhur does not do, I will point it out. Or whenever it's something that is a daily issue, makes it difficult for you to go through your day, I'll point it out as well. So I pointed that out when we read the like I read it at the first time, that this is something Shafi'iyya will see specifically. I don't follow myself, like even as someone who spent most of the books that I studied within the Shafi'i madhab, but still I don't follow it. I think the Jumhur has a better argument to begin with, and it's just a matter of looking at just kind of putting evidence together and talking about I guess convenience as well, like in terms of
back to that point.
That's okay, that's fine.
Back to that point, you also mentioned on the other side of that where even the Jumhur's opinion is that, well, if you do touch excessively in a romantic way, then that would actually invalidate your wudu. At what point would that last?
So when shahwa, so in contact to your spouse, let's use your spouse here because that's the only example here that would work. So with your spouse, you'll have physical contact that will not insinuate or not be with the intention of intimacy. You're not looking for sexual intimacy or romantic intimacy in any way, and that is what I think doesn't call for wudu. But if you go for it like with a sexual intention with your wife, then if let's say you start that, initiate that, and for some reason you have to cut it off for whatever reason, like a kid wakes up or someone knocks on the door. Now you don't have your wudu, which is the point that needs to say that now you have to make your wudu again. So that's for the Jumhur. Does that make sense? So sometimes so that would be the.
Like before you want to go to the mosque, like you want to give your wife a hug.
Yeah. So for the Jumhur, that's fine because it's not sexual. Like you're not. You understand what I'm saying? Like, or not? So you don't have the sexual intention. You're not giving her a hug or a kiss or with the intention of this. There's no shahwa involved. It's just a courtesy. It's just a formality that people do all the time. Now I know guys who aren't married like, no, that's impossible. No, it's possible. You'll be married 7, 8 years into it. It'll be a formality that is just normal. Just a way of. There's no shahwa involved. If you're a Shafi'i, then you don't do it. That's why a Shafi'i dude will make wudu, and if his wife wants to bother him, she'll come and touch him, and now he has to go do the wudu again. And it's a way for a wife to kind of bother her husband. But again, that's the Shafi'i's way of looking at things, and I think the Jumhur has a better argument anyway. That makes sense to you, inshallah? Okay. Any other questions? This is the right time, yes.
Just checking about that forbidden time for offering voluntary prayer.
Yeah.
Especially in regards to the like the zawal time.
Yeah.
So like 12:24. So we shouldn't be praying
from 12 to 12:24.
minutes? Is it 20 minutes or so?
Around 20 minutes. Yeah.
I see. I had a quick discussion with
Yes.
Imam Jamal.
Yes.
He mentioned that it's normally 5 minutes or so. And plus he said that you can always pray voluntary prayers if it is for a reason that has already happened. For instance,
Sure.
you made wudu.
Yeah.
Now you're offering tahiyatul wudu.
Sure, sure.
Or you are coming to the masjid. You already entered the masjid.
Yeah.
You are offering tahiyatul.
That's what the text says. الصلوات السنة التي ليس لها سبب. So we're talking about not praying voluntary prayers or not praying a prayer that doesn't have a reason attached to it. Just meaning you want to do voluntary prayer. You just want to pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want to do 2 rak'ah sunnah. So these are the times that you don't do it. Now I say 20 just to be on the safe side because when it comes to estimating times back then, it was not. It's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly how much time they meant. So just to be on the safe side, I'm saying 20 minutes. If you're doing 20 minutes, then you're well out of the timing. But there are scholars who say 5 minutes. There are scholars who say even less than that. Like they say just 1 minute before zawal. Like the sun is coming just the minute before it actually hits the middle of the sky. So you have that opinion as well. So it's a matter of, these are matters of difference of opinion. It's not a problem, yani, what time, yeah.
So we can always offer something that has happened in the past.
Yes.
With that intention.
So let's say that somehow you missed a prayer yesterday. You slept and you didn't get Fajr or Maghrib or something like that. So you make up for it. Doesn't matter where the sun is. It doesn't matter if it's before Ghurub or if it's before Zawal or if it's after Fajr. It doesn't matter. You pray because you don't know if you're going to live long enough to make up for it in the right time, right? So you're held accountable for that. It's just other prayers that are just totally voluntary. Tahiyyat al-Masjid, Tahiyyat is all fine. You can do that anytime you want, inshallah. Okay, that is the prominent opinion, at least, regarding that. Some scholars have different opinions regarding what's okay, what's not okay.
Which prayer shouldn't be prayed?
Voluntary prayers, just open prayers with no. The thing is, no one's ever done that here. Yeah, so no, it's really very rarely. It's very rare that someone just prays for the sake of Allah with nothing attached to it. Like there's no attachment whatsoever. So because we don't do that very often, we don't seem to understand what the text is trying to say. But the people back in the day, like before, they would pray. Just I'm not doing anything. So I'll just stand up, Allahu Akbar, and I'll pray for the sake of Allah. What is this? Nothing. It's just for the sake of Allah. I mean, is it Sunnat al-Maghrib? No. Is it Qiyam al-Layl? Not really. Is it, did you miss a prayer? No. What are you doing? I'm just praying for the sake of Allah. That doesn't happen often today. So back in the day, it used to happen a lot. And this text is saying just don't do it like an open prayer during these times. Just these times, don't do a voluntary prayer, which is after, between Fajr until the sun goes up, after Fajr until the sun goes up around the length of a spear into the sky, 20 minutes before Zawal, and between Asr until Maghrib adhan goes off. But anything that has a reason to it, you can go ahead and do anytime you want. Yes?
So Salat al-Shukr, like for example, you graduate.
That has a reason. Yeah, that has a reason. Yeah. Again, there are scholars who detail their answers regarding reasons. Like some of them will detail it. I'm just telling you the general opinion in the Shafi'i madhab, which is anything that has a reason, you're fine. But some scholars will detail to say it has to be a fard that you missed, or it has to be something. But like say you come and pray Fajr, and you didn't do the Sunnat al-Fajr, which is a very important, regularly recommended sunnah, right? Do you pray it after Fajr or not? So you find like this division amongst whether you do it or not. I personally don't. I leave it till later. But you can do it. Like the scholars will say, yeah, it has a sabab. The Shafi'i will say that. And then others will say, no, there's not a good enough sabab. The sabab has to be something compelling, much more compelling than a sunnah prayer, because you can make a sunnah later on. If you don't make up for it, you're not going to be held accountable. But these are awqat makruha. These are unrecommended timings. So there's a division amongst scholars regarding the usages of these terms and what qualifies and what doesn't. The Shafi'i, anything that has a cause qualifies. Anything, even Salat al-Shukr, something like that, Salat al-Wudu, Salat al-Tawbah, Istikhara, it all qualifies.
Do we have two separate quizzes, one just on purification and one just on prayer?
Sure. Okay. It's not. I'm not going to grade anyone. Just for your own sake. Like, you can give it to me. I'll see what you did right and wrong. I'll help you out. But the idea is just for your own sake. If you want to, you just see if you understand everything. Do you have the information or not? I'll ask some hard questions here and there and see if everyone kind of caught up on how it was.
What section is there left in the book?
In the book? Oh, there's still a lot of sections, but they're not as long. See, the sections are much shorter. There's a lot of. It's funny. It's interesting to study these type of texts because you're going to find a lot of what's going to come is less relevant than what we've already studied. Like what we studied, tahara and wudu and salah. This is very relevant. but other parts are going to be a bit less relevant and a bit harder to understand because they don't apply today as much as they did before. It's going to be a lot of fun to study zakat together because the finance part of this book is simple, and it talks a lot about what happened back in the day. So sheep and gold and dates and stuff like that. So for us, it's all just dollars in the bank account. So we have to draw parallels and learn how to what's okay in terms of buying and selling, what's not okay and stuff like that. And there's a lot of rulings regarding slaves and slavery because that was still prominent at the time. So we'll have to kind of skim through that quickly or draw parallels to it today or understand what the idea was behind it. But because there's a lot of rulings that were regarding people, because slaves were a part of the fabric of society in Arabia for a long time. It took a number of centuries for them to go, and until they did, there were rulings that were specific for them, whether male or female. I'll add one more thing as an answer to a question. If you are during tashahhud, do you do Rabbi Ghfirli? So when you come, you sit for tashahhud, do you say Rabbi Ghfirli, Rabbi Ghfirli, Rabbi Ghfirli, or do you do tahiyyatu immediately? So what do you do? I'm asking what you do. Like what you pray. So what do you do? So you make sujood, the second sujood, and then you're sitting up for tashahhud. When you sit, do you say tahiyyat immediately, or do you say Rabbi Ghfirli first?
Say immediately.
Tahiyyatu. And does anyone do Rabbi Ghfirli?
It's just only in between.
Yeah, so and there's a difference of opinion among scholars. Some of them say that you just start with tahiyyat immediately, which is a more prominent opinion, and some of them you can say Rabbi Ghfirli first and then tahiyyatu. So there's a difference of opinion here. Yeah, so starting at tahiyyat is a more prominent opinion. You start with that immediately, but I'm just kind of put that out there as a.
That is what you say between.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that if you do that, then there's actually opinions that accommodate that as well, but it's less prominent. And it's has less evidence to support it.
Now, okay. Can we go over what do you do with your hands when you do ruku'? Like, do they go point down, sideways?
So for the Shafi'iyya, you're supposed to hold on, and this is for the Jumhur, you're supposed to hold on to your kneecaps. So you're supposed to hold on to the kneecaps. It's not really about in which direction. In julus, it's about the direction, and also in sujood, there's direction. But in terms of in ruku', it's more grasping the kneecaps or the lower part of the thigh, or even the upper part of the leg. So there's three places, depending on what madhab you're going to study, whether you hold on here, or you hold on to the kneecap, or you hold on down. So it doesn't matter.
So I see most people do like downwards.
This way, so you're not really holding on anything like that. So you don't really get the ruku' done. In order for ruku', like the way ruku' is supposed to be done is you're supposed to be able to straighten out your back parallel to the ground. So if you just put your hands, it's literally impossible. So yeah, it doesn't work. But when I hold on, I get to push my shoulders. It's like I slouch my shoulders ahead a bit, and then my back becomes straight. You see, so when you hold on, to your knees, you have the ability to slouch your shoulders forward a bit, and then your back becomes straight. When it's just going like this, you're not actually grasping anything. You don't really straighten out your back, and you just arch. Right, so this is not considered for the prominent, at least for most scholars at least. Yani, some of them don't mind it, but for the most of them, they don't. This is not ruku'. So this doesn't qualify as ruku'. This is you trying to pick something up from the ground and then giving up. Yeah, that's all. Ruku', you have to straighten out your. Yeah.
What about the sitting for tahiyyat? Like, can you put your hands on, like, do you have to put it on your thighs, or do you put it on your? Again,
so this is khilaf. Some of them early thighs, some of them here. So the Shafi'iyya, that you keep it at the lower part of your thigh. You don't grasp the knees. You're not seeing it like this, right? This one, mabsuta, open like this. The left is just straightforward, and then the right is muhallaqa. Right, a group. Now, for us, for the Shafi'iyya, it's like this, and then the sababa is just left forward, and then you move it. When do you move it for the Shafi'iyya? And
Every time you mention the name of Allah.
No, illa. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, and then it stays like that until you do salam. Right? The Hanafiyya, ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, and then you keep it down to the end. And then the Malikiyya, you just keep on going back and forth sideways. And the Hanabila, every time you say the name of Allah or you make a dua or something, you move it.
And I think there's also the opinion of just keeping it the whole time.
Yeah, the Hanabila have three opinions in their own madhab regarding what to do with the finger. But the prominent one is that, and this is like the more modern one, and I find it to be the better one, to be honest, which is that you move it every time you say the dhikr of Allah or you make a dua, which makes more sense because it gives it at least some understanding. Also what the Hanafiyya do is la ilaha is also makes sense as well. Anyways, there's really very little evidence to support what you're going to do. Okay? So whatever you do here is fine. But the thing is that you don't have your hand out like this. The right is not out like this. It's not like that. Right? So it's like you have to. It's not you have to. Again, this is all hayat. These are all sunan. If you don't do them, they're fine. But you تحلق تمام ثم وتبسط السبابة. So you make it like a ring, and then you have the index finger forward, and then you bring it up and down. Okay.
So the hand has to be on an angle. It couldn't be straight.
It can be straight. The Maliki like it to be like this. Like totally, but so again, because there's very little evidence to support this, like there's not clear description, so you can have it differently.
I just want to ask
Sure.
you, I think, Sheikh, I've heard there are 13 different ahadith for the finger.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of difference of opinion.
For the right hand, I think they are the Maliki. They use the hadith where they say the Sahaba saw the hand of Rasulullah, that his hand was like the number 64.
Yeah. So they have it like this. Yeah. So the Maliki will have it like this. It's like they're carrying. It's like there's a cup inside. Yani. So the Maliki will tell you, imagine you're carrying a small cup. Yani. So like this. But again, there's because there's difference of opinion and the different descriptions. It's not very clear. So whatever you do is really not that much of a problem. But there's really, but having it straight like this for the right hand is not. There's really none of them. Of all the different opinions, that's not one of them. The right is always brought in, and the left is put.
Maybe a little irrelevant, but I might be wrong. It seems like core of the Arabian is more Shafiee, and outskirt is Hanafi.
No, that's not. Yes, the outskirts of the eastern. So from after Iran to the east, the Hanafi madhab is much more prominent. But within Arabia, you'll find everything. You'll find all of them. In Syria, we have تكيات بيسموه تكيي or kursi. For the Maghariba. So kursi المذهب or تكية المذهب الحنفي وتكية المذهب المالكي تكية المذهب الشافعي تكية المذهب الحنبلي. So you'll find masajid where there are scholars of that madhab who do fatwa for that madhab. And they are like they can count their authenticity back to the imams of the madhab themselves. It's a very beautiful thing. Like in Dimashq itself, in Damascus itself, there are all four madhab plus the Zahiriyya, plus the Ja'fariyya, and plus the Zaydiyya. You'll find all the masajid have like all the madhab have a masjid and have an area, and their scholars can go. You can learn the madhab from them. You can take the books and everything and go to another one. It's very. I'm not sure. I think Misr has that. I think Egypt, parts of Egypt have that, but I don't think outside of Egypt and Damascus there's anything like that, like in terms of the variety. Now if you look at the madhab al-Hanbali is very strong in the Hijaz area, meaning the Gulf countries. Not all of them, but most of them. The Shafi'iyya, you'll find a lot of Shafi'iyya in the Bilad al-Sham, so Lebanon and but see basically Syria, Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon and Iraq are kind of 50-50 Hanafi Shafi'i. So there's a lot of Hanafiyya there as well. Like it's very prominent there. Maliki go to the west a bit. So the Libyans, the Algerians and the Moroccans. But you'll also find there Shafi'iyya. The thing is you'll find everything. If you go, you'll find a very good population of people. You'll find masajid that like we have a masjid in Syria called Masjid al-Hanabila. It's called Masjid al-Hanabila, so that's what it's called, and in Damascus, and the Imam of it is a Hanafi guy. Anyways, it's a very interesting place, and subhanAllah, you get to know a lot of people, and so it's not in those places. It's not. It used to be a problem in the Arabia. It used to be more of a problem to have different madhab. It's no longer a problem anymore. There's a lot of closeness, and they talk. The problem now is different. The problem now is more theological, ideological. It's going to take us another 400 years, inshallah, to come, so that we stop fighting about that as well. But they used to fight over the issues of madhab, like when it comes to the moving of the finger. There's no stories where some guy said him and broke the guy's finger because he's moving it too much or something like that. But there's stories that you'll hear from scholars where a Maliki guy is praying, we find a Shafi'i guy, and the Maliki guy going like this. So the Shafi'i guy said him and broke his finger, so he stopped doing it. So they used to fight over madhab, fiqh, jurisprudence problems. They used to take it very, very seriously. It took us a number of centuries for us to stop doing that, understand that there's more than one way to see things, and we stopped fighting about jurisprudence. Now we're fighting over theology and ideology. Now it'll take us, I don't know how long, inshallah it'll take us less than that, but we have to come to a point where we stop fighting about that as well, understand that there's more than one way to see things, specifically as long as we agree on the basics, on the big questions, which most Muslims, Sunni Muslims at least, most Sunni Muslims agree to, most of them, like more than you think, yeah.
In India, the most important thing is, and the most problematic is, the one madhab announces if someone follows some other madhab, they say that your nikah is gone.
Well, that's impossible. That used to happen. See, that used to happen in Arabia as well. Used to happen 600 years ago. That was a thing. A Shafi'i to marry a Hanafi lady was a problem. Was a big problem. Oh, a very big problem. The Hanabila weren't even regarded as a madhab at the time. It was a big problem. People used to fight a lot on these things. It took a while for people to understand that there's more than one way to see these things, and that there's no reason for us to differ. But now we're differing on other stuff within the Sunni realm. And I don't know, inshallah, we're capable of bringing forward some mutual understanding and some open-mindedness in terms of these things that we differ upon.
Whole village in India,
Yeah, I know.
they have to do this.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it before, I've seen something similar to that, inshallah. Okay, Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, yes.
One last question.
Yeah. He almost saved me, Saad, there, but he didn't, yeah.
For the burial, you mentioned that they just put the body down. So usually we have the box. Now for the box, like
That's fine, yeah.
there's no.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. These are all, again, these are all sunan that have the level of the level of priority of this sunnah is pretty low, because there's not that much evidence to support it, and there's not much evidence to support that the Prophet ﷺ specifically wanted us to do that all the time. So the boxes are fine, and lowering them down together is fine. The issue is just dignity. The thing that has to be maintained is dignity of the person who died, meaning that we do it in a dignified way, and we don't. And he's not treated roughly. He's not thrown in. He's lowered in a way that's respectful. Because when you pass away, you want people to. I don't know if you maybe don't, but generally speaking, those who love you want you to be respected when you're the way that you're dealt with. I've seen some bad examples. I've seen people die who don't really have much family, and the way that they were treated is quite. I went to medical school, so in medical school you have to work on cadavers, so they bring in bodies. Now, the body that they bring in is probably for someone who didn't have a family member, not one family member who cared enough to bury this guy. So the way they treat this person is very undignified. Like I think that is. It's for science, it's for knowledge, it's for the benefit of the ummah. So for certain people to donate that to science is not a problem. However, now that this person has donated his body for you to learn, then treat it with dignity. Like there has to be dignity, there has to be ihtiram of this person. Wallah, at the end of it, the guy was just a couple of pieces that was put into a bag and thrown in. He was very thrown into a hole. There was a lack of dignity in the way that these. It was my biggest problem in medical school, was I couldn't accept the way they were treating the cadavers. There was no respect. So I think that what these things are telling us is respect. So lowering him from the head down is just, when you're lowered from the feet down, it's like you're sliding into something. It's, the head down is more dignified. It's like when you put your kid to bed, you don't put the feet first, do you? You don't have it, but you take the kid, you put the head first, and then you lay it. So it's a matter of tenderness, of kindness, of respect to the deceased. So the box is just as respectful. He lowers him properly, and it's all good, inshallah. It's no problem. Okay, Jazakumullah khair. Next week we're off. Revise. I would advise everyone.